Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Mark Schillinger, founder of the nonprofit Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, an organization that puts on rite of passage initiations for young men ages 13 to 20 to help them prepare for the challenges of the young adult world. I'm also the founder of the organization Challenging Teenage Sons, which helps parents and their sons have more caring and cooperative relationships. Welcome to today's podcast. It's called Unite Your Family Before Artificial Intelligence Tears It Apart. I've been a family mentor since 2000, and here's what I see. I don't want to say this, and I have to say this. Families all around the world are in dire and desperate need to have the world help them raise mindful, productive, and cooperative people. There are more obstacles than ever raising children, and most of those obstacles come in the form of digital distractions, technology, artificial intelligence. The constant participation and instant gratification that devices and AI create is diminishing the natural biological drive of our good teens to want to successfully launch into the world. The hard truth is that many of our teens are just not feeling it. Their dopamine addiction to digital distractions is keeping them from engaging in their instinctual drive to get out into the world and to be their own man. Straight up, that's what I'm seeing. As my good friend Warren Farrell says in his book, The Boy Crisis, young men are losing the glint in their eye, meaning they're losing the innate sense that they need to want to find out who they are and apply their wisdom and their skills in a meaningful way in the world. My main message today is that families need a path, a method, a way to navigate their way through the stressful transitions humans are experiencing during this intense rush into the technological era. Most adults and children alike are overstressed by this rapid transition to a new and different way of living. The transition I'm referring to is what I'm calling ancestral intelligence, or the old ways of doing things or raising kids, into the realm of artificial intelligence, the new ways of doing things, and the new ways that parents will have to raise their children. What I mean by ancestral intelligence is the way that humans have evolved over the past hundreds of thousands of years to get to this moment. And specifically, I'm pointing to ancestral intelligence as the way that humans have become the caring, compassionate, connected, and cooperative creatures that most of us are. What I mean by artificial intelligence is what humans are currently transitioning into, which is a culture that is filled with amazing benefits and wonderful conveniences. And it's also creating isolation, anxiety, depression, suicides, boredom, loneliness, and addiction to weed and alcohol, and of course, digital devices. I am not telling you anything new when I say that our children are withdrawing away from us. They're getting hypnotized into a world that causes them to excessively seek pleasure and to consistently avoid pain. They are the first generation to be able to focus their attention away from their parents so much, it's causing a rift between parents and children like we've never seen before. This podcast offers parents a clear roadmap. It will show you an effective way to avoid having your children being led astray by successfully navigating through the endless technological distractions so that you can all enjoy more caring and loving and generous cooperative relationships. This way, this path, was paved by our ancestors hundreds of thousands of years ago and has essentially been forgotten by our modern world. Here's my personal quick story about how I got introduced to these concepts I'm already telling you about. When my children, Gabe and Becca, were in their teens, this was like in the late 1980s, early 1900s, they got so caught up in television, and this is when like Nintendo and Game Boy were coming in. I loved them. I knew they loved me, but here's how it felt to me. I felt like they were moving away from me like in a speedboat on an ocean, moving away from the shore. And I was standing there on the shore, basically with a canoe and one paddle. Like there was no way that I was going to be able to reach them. I don't think they wanted to hear what I had to say. Again, they knew we loved each other. We had some great times, of course. So I know how painful it is to feel your teens ignoring your wisdom and looking for guidance elsewhere, mostly in the form of their devices. And where they're looking for guidance is mostly from sources that want to keep them focused on mindless entertainment and consuming an endless supply of products and services. So I want to cover three main areas on this podcast. Number one, why families are suffering from artificial intelligence and technology. Number two, the secret to overcoming those technological obstacles in order to restore family unity. And number three, how family unity is the best solution to many of the world's problems. So why do I think you as parents need to know these things? Because I'm a family mentor. I'm literally in the trenches, meaning I'm in the homes of many families, either literally or virtuously through Zoom, working with families every day, hearing stories from parents around the world about how their teens are not listening to them. I hear stories from parents now that I could never dream of doing as a teenager with my father or my mother back in the 50s and 60s. No way. If I was the slightest bit disrespectful in any way, they would immediately and clearly communicate the values they expected me to live by. And on the rare occasions that my siblings and I didn't behave according to those virtues, there were consequences, not punishments, consequences implemented swiftly. Now, I hear about young men these days telling their parents to literally fuck off when it's time to get up and go to school, and they don't go. I hear stories about young men totally frozen to their devices for social media or gaming and having no regard for what their parents are telling them, like coming down for dinner from their room. I know these are good kids at heart, and they're coming from good parents. I know because I'm mentoring people all around the world, and I'm seeing this happening all around the world. However, the era of digital dominance and artificial intelligence has taken the authority from parents and placed it on their teen's cell phone or watch. Back in our ancestral past, families had to communicate face to face and make sure that everybody of every age knew what their role was in order to maintain a well-functioning family and community. I had this amazing opportunity. I spent a brief period of time in Kenya getting to know some young men from a small Samburu tribe, and a few of them spoke English. I also had a unique opportunity to speak with the shaman in the village with the help of the young men who translated for us. Now, while this shaman would never, ever consider letting me watch a real rite of passage initiation in that tribe, he did give me clear insight about the need for it. He also mentioned that everybody in the tribe knew each other, and he said that the adults valued the unique perspectives and skills that each child had. They observed them from their earliest age. They made sure that these young people got a chance to express their unique virtues and talents so that they could contribute to the tribe in some way. And, of course, the children knew the adults in the tribe and what skills and wisdom they had, and they would seek those people out. Why? Because the parents trusted that the mentors were teaching them the same values that they were. The problem that this rapid transition from ancestral intelligence into artificial intelligence is causing is that it's creating a culture of distracted parents and children. These distractions are so deeply ingrained in our culture that it's preventing all of us, essentially, in families, from focusing on real connection and cooperation. It's being replaced with division and isolation. Sadly, we live in a culture that really doesn't care enough to educate parents on how to best guide teenagers through this transition. How can you help them navigate their way through the digital diversions of the technological highway? How do you guide them through the maze of social media, endless entertainment at their fingertips, and over-the-top consumerism? These are big questions. Before I get to the solution of this challenging transition, I want to tell you a quick story about my own childhood and about feeling nature's call of maturity, which is what I think most young men are now missing, as I said earlier. They're not feeling it. They're not feeling that call. And if they are, many of them are just ignoring it because they'd rather fun. So back in the day, for me in the 50s, certainly by the 60s, every day, certainly after school and certainly on Saturdays, dozens of teenagers would get out of the house and hang out at the concrete schoolyards. There wasn't a whole lot of nature. And my closest friends and I, including my brothers, we loved playing basketball. So that's what we did. And whenever we could, we loved getting outside into the countryside, back into nature. I remember the first time my dad let me hitchhike out of Queens to go upstate and go camping. During those trips, I learned valuable life skills like how to cook, how to set up my own shelter, how to cooperate with others, and most importantly, really, how to enjoy being quiet when nothing much was happening. Being outdoors taught me how to think for myself and allowed me to discover my strengths, accept my weaknesses, which wasn't easy, and most importantly, ask for help from others. I remember one time on one trip, it was an evening, I was camping with my close friend Tommy. We're still best friends all these years later in our 70s. We're at a place called Bashfish Falls on the border of eastern New York State and western Massachusetts. It was raining, and Tommy and I struggled to fall asleep. The campsite where we were was right next to a creek, and it was beginning to overflow onto the bank where we were camping. We were getting really wet, and we did not get very much sleep. The next day, we heard about somebody who was walking that night on one of the trails right near where we were, and slipped, fell down a ravine, and died. There was something about being scared and excited at the same time. When I heard that story and that entire trip, scared and excited, I often felt the testosterone helping me overcome my fears by forcing me to carefully look out for myself. Because out in the woods, there was no distractions. There was no cell phones back in the day. I had to focus on developing what it took to become more responsible for my own well-being. There was no choice. I had to focus on my survival. Now, let's fast forward. Let's get back into today's world. I would say that for the most part, young men still have that testosterone drive to be their own man. I just think it's fading quickly. Young men that I mentor, they may physically appear like they're going through puberty, like getting facial hair or having their voices deepen, but they're having their energy misdirected towards sitting in a chair playing video games or laying on their bed talking on cell phones. So when normal testosterone kicks in for them and teens need to start exploring this world, this hormone is being misdirected towards happily being distracted by devices. They are addicted to the dopamine rush they get from their constant participation on devices. And if, God forbid, you as the parent try to interfere with those distractions, they're going to act like they're 5 years old and throw a tantrum. But now they're a teen, so their tantrums include the fuel of testosterone. They don't know how to regulate testosterone and dopamine. Those are strong chemicals. They just want to have fun. And as teens, they'll fiercely defend that. So how does this affect you in this modern time of artificial intelligence and technology? How does it affect your parenting? This is a really challenging type of young man to parent. I'm pretty sure that parents have not had to face this intense combination of testosterone and dopamine ever before. When your authority clashes with your son's festivity, fueled by a flood of testosterone and dopamine, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time getting the attention of your son with him thinking that you actually have real important information that he needs to know in order for him to make it in the outside world. It's unlikely he's going to be thinking like that. I mean, look, I'm a father. Now, my son and daughter are 44 and 41 years old, and I love them like you love all of your children. And when I see them in person now still, I hug them and kiss them like they're 5. I'm just so thrilled to see them. And yet, I still pray that they'll always know how to make it in this world when I'm gone, especially in this time of transition. So I'll feel in you. I know what you're worried about your son, your teens. I know you're worried that they may not make it. All right, let's get to the solutions. All right, solution number 1. You got to have a way. If you've been listening to my podcast, you've heard me say this many times before. You have to have a way, just like a tribe has a way, a shared way, to raise children so that the tribe will survive and ideally thrive, just like with your family. You have to have a way or a method to navigate everyone through the digital distractions of this technological era. You cannot rely any longer on the old ways of parenting. The days of, I told you so, or because I said so, they're just fading. Now, I know, because I've mentored parents all around the world, and I still do, parents still have the right instincts. You all do. I know that they still feel the connection to the wisdom of our ancestors. However, they don't have a practical method or way to deal with what's happening in the world now. So when you as a parent are stressed out and you don't have a clear way to parent your teenager in this era, making shit up on the spot to punish your teen is not going to help your teenager trust that you can lead them towards maturity and independence. Let me give you a quick analogy that can explain this problem that I'm explaining about the ancestral way into the artificial way. I'm sure you've all seen a TV show or a movie where a police team or a SWAT team silently creeps up to a house and surrounds it. Then on the signal from the leader, those officers that are at the door or at a window, they're going to toss in the tear gas. Now, tear gas is not intended to kill. However, it is intended to agitate everybody in that house to the point where they're going to run into their rooms and close the door or run screaming out of that house. Because when they're in that fight or flight mode, it's pretty much every person for themselves. There's a lot of chaos going on. They're not thinking straight. That's how I relate to this transition from the old ways into new ways of parenting. These distractions are just causing everybody to go into fight or flight mode and basically retreat into their rooms to isolate or leave the house as often as they can just to get away from everyone. This agitation that the tear gas or the unsettling transition into the new world of AI is tearing families apart. Now, it's possible, probable, sometime in the future, I don't know how many generations from now, humans will be reading about this time that we're in currently, right now, and we'll call it a pivotal time for the survival or maybe the breakup of family life as we now know it. So, first solution is you have to have a way. The second solution is you need a vehicle, a way to introduce the method, a way to begin to implement the way. When I started the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, which is a rite of passage adventure camp for young men, I did it so that I could heal my relationship with my son, Gabe. And when 205 young men showed up to that event with no advertising other than word of mouth, I knew I was not the only father who needed help raising a son and getting through all the emerging digital distractions. That was in the year 2000. So the vehicle was rite of passage. I found a mentor up in Canada. He was putting on rites of passages. I went there with Gabe. I came back to the Bay Area where I live and said, I got to do this. This is good work. So I put together a method to teach the young men and the parents how to have more caring, connected, compassionate, and cooperative relationships. And the rite of passage was the event to introduce the way and implement the way. So parents need to have their teens attend a rite of passage to activate their biology toward personal evolution as a happy and productive human being. This is how our ancestors prepared their sons and daughters, for that matter, for adulthood. Without this ceremony, there's no clear line of demarcation in a young person's life that says, you are now transitioning from a child to an adult. Welcome. We're here to support you. You can do it. You will do it. And you'll respect yourself and have the self-confidence you'll need to become the person, the adult you've always wanted to be. Now, just quickly, I want to say this too. After I started the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, I soon realized that parents needed a rite of passage also. They needed the same way we were teaching the young men. So I started the Ultimate Parenting Weekend. And basically, this one-of-a-kind event is an initiation into becoming a mentor to your teen and becoming less of a parent. So when I say that parents need to be initiated into becoming a mentor and not so much a parent, that means that they have to start teaching their teens how to get things done and stop doing things for them. Now, I won't go too much into the method, but it's called the Right Way Method for Family Unity. Right, R-I-G-H-T, stands for 5 virtues: respect, intelligence, grace, humor, and true. So without getting into the details of this way, I'll just say that these 5 virtues are the guide. This is the way that parents learn how to use their authority and their influence in a meaningful way. And this is how young men learn how to become more responsible for their own well-being and become more confident in their abilities to handle challenges. So I believe that parents and teens need a rite of passage to get through this critical time in history. Okay, what's the third solution? The third solution to help families make this transition smoother is to have mentors. So you got to have a way. You have to have a rite of passage to initiate everybody into the way. And you need to have people in the community to keep everybody moving in the right direction. Those would be the mentors. At the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, our mentors are trained to help bring out the best in young men without getting agitated by them. Our mentors know how to respond in a calm, compassionate, clear, concise way with the certainty knowing that what they're saying and modeling to young men is what they need to learn. Here's something I find myself saying to parents a lot. A village of good men can often influence young men in ways that good parents and even great parents can't. This doesn't mean that our parents aren't good parents. Of course they're good parents. It just means that teens have been wired for hundreds of thousands of years to trust the instruction from mentors. And when they hear something said by a mentor that they respect, they often begin implementing that advice right away. Why are mentors so effective? Not because parents are bad or wrong. They're effective because the mentors don't have the emotional baggage that parents often have with their children. They're not locked into the same brain patterning. It's a cleaner relationship. The young men know that they are hearing wise words from people who are not attached to whether they do what they say or not. And because of that, the young men are way more likely to integrate the teachings of mentors into their lives. If a young man acts immaturely and resists the teaching, the mentors simply persist in their message. They don't quit. They don't give up. They don't get frustrated. They don't get agitated. They remain compassionate, calm, and connected, and communicate clearly. In our experience at the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, thousands of young men later since we started in the year 2000, that most young men sense that this special type of relationship is really good for them. I believe that we have evolved as far as we have as humans because nature, with its intelligent wisdom, provided parents with other adults nearby to keep their children moving in the right direction. I have a quick story for you about being a family mentor. It's real quick. And, of course, digital distractions. I've been recently mentoring a young guy. He's 12 years old, smart dude, really insightful. Now, this guy has become addicted to devices, especially his smartwatch. A 12-year-old with a smartwatch. Who can believe this? This is about the most direct example I can think of about artificial intelligence interfering with ancestral intelligence. So this guy has been engaging in communications with teens who are older than him. And they have been putting some unhealthy or unrelatable ideas into his head about what life's going to be like. In fact, he even said that he was in love with one of the female teens he was texting. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And on top of that, in general, he suffers from some anxiety and he can get agitated pretty easily. And he often will become disrespectful when he does. Now, I can relate to that because I was like that when I was a kid, very anxious. In fact, that's why I became a doctor specializing in stress management. I wanted to learn how to deal with my anxiety. So here's this young guy learning how to stay calm to his own anxiety, but not a master. So when he gets on his watch, his parents get really upset about this. And they had become confused about how to deal with it. And whenever they talked to him about it, he would get angry and just get up and walk away. And like I said, like all the young men I mentor, he's a great guy. He's a great kid. He's got a good heart. And so are the parents. And I knew that he really did want to be a hero for his families, and he was addicted to this device, which he was not going to admit. So as the family mentor, I was able to speak to him separately from his parents, which I often do. And I was able to speak to his parents separately from speaking with him, which I often do. And I was able to speak to the three of them about what was going on and offered a solution, which the parents accepted. Now, by speaking to all of them, everybody heard the solution in real time. And when they enforced the removal of all screens for this young guy and restored his normal sleep pattern, like no devices, no weird foods before bedtime, no screens, their 12-year-old reverted back to being friendly and the intelligent member of their house. It took 2 weeks. 2 weeks! So listen, I know you're doing the best you can to help your son prepare for the challenges of adulthood. But sometimes your teen son may blame you or resent you for not showing him how to patiently and firmly guide him through his uncomfortable transition from boyhood to adulthood. When parents cannot skillfully lead their family to behave like a cooperative clan, their anxiety inhibits everybody to efficiently adapt to the adversities everybody's feeling in their life. So without a way, you'll become anxious and maybe fearful about your son's future. And unfortunately, you may unconsciously act out your concerns through stressful and unhelpful behaviors with him. If that sounds like you, there's no blame, shame, or guilt here. This is what's happening throughout the world because of that tear gas, that technology that's been thrown into your house. So you need a rite of passage, you need a method, you need mentors. So I want to wind down by talking about the third thing I said I was going to talk about at the beginning of this podcast, which is how family unity is one of the best solutions, maybe the best solution, to many of the world's problems. When everybody in the house wants everybody else in the house to help them in their personal evolution in order to reach their true potential, you'll have a successful clan. You'll have a home where caring, connection, communication, compassion, and cooperation are the virtues held in the highest regard. I know this type of family is possible because I've seen it in the homes that I mentor. And when these virtues emerge from families and into their communities, the world is going to be a much healthier place. I know that this has already happened for hundreds of thousands of years in our history. So it's still in our DNA. It's in our shared human consciousness. We know how to do this. Now listen, I'm not saying that we should even try to stop the rapid advancement of technology, because the powers that be that are delivering this stuff to us will not stop. Profit before people is the driving force for those few who get to control everybody else. And listen, I mean this sincerely. I say that with no anger or no animosity. I'm sober to this. I'm clear. I'm just stating what's obviously true. And yes, as a dreamer, I would wish that those people who have bazillions of dollars, so to speak, lots of money to spare, would willingly want to distribute in good ways throughout the world. Anyway, that said, if the world is going to incorporate the best of the old ways of parenting through this transition into the new ways, it comes down to this. We, the parents, need to be skillful during this transition so that our children are better able to provide for their own physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial independence. I've been mentoring families for 26 years now. I started in the year 2000. Here's what I know. Parents and their children instinctually know how to cooperatively share their physical skills, their mental wisdom, their emotional resilience, and their material goods together. However, parents will need to have a path or a way, or they will find their children being led astray and not achieving their true potential. I know that the world is going to be a healthier, happier, and much safer place when young men and young women know how to respectfully work together in political and economic leadership based on love, generosity, and cooperation, not on hatred, greed, and polarization. So the world needs thriving family relationships now more than ever. It's not too late to move our families in the right direction. So we all need to do this together, because there ain't no cultural support coming in to help your family make this transition from the old ways to the new ways. We are the ones we've been waiting for. There is no outside force coming in to rescue our families from this rapid AI takeover. However, we do have the instincts and the abilities to reclaim our homes, to restore our relationships, and to raise young men and women who are prepared for the challenges of the modern world. It starts with us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I want to thank you for listening to me rant on this podcast. I'm really passionate about helping families make this transition. If you like today's podcast, please share it or like it. Also, you can get my free newsletters for both the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend and Challenging Teenage Sons. All you need to do is to send us an email at info@challengingteenagesons.com. That's info@challengingteenagesons.com. Tell me you want to get the blogs, and here's what I'll do. I'm going to send you the method, what I like to call the roadmap that I created that helps parents all around the world have better relationships with their teenagers. So if you request to get on our email list, I'm going to send you that roadmap, the blueprint. I promise you it'll help you raise your teens with more confidence and less stress, way less stress. So again, email me at info@challengingteenagesons.com I'll send you the blueprint, and I really look forward to hearing from you because I will directly respond to you.